What I love about the show and the current climate is that there's potentially a resistance to the concept of faith, but I think faith reduced down is something quite quiet and gentle, and it reflects through actions and through the struggles of human day to day. You know, life is known and unknown, and when we're in the unknown, and you've got to keep the faith, you got to look up, as Chosen says. So.
Hi, everybody. I'm Cheryl Crisp for Movie Guide, and this is Coffee and Conversation with the Chosen. Season 5 is kicking off as the most powerful and intense season yet. Reza, you play Apostle Phillip. What can fans expect from season 5?
Season 5 is the Last Supper, as we all know. So it's the last time the disciples are having a meal with Jesus. So, it's very tender and difficult and complex and nuanced moment with a lot of unknowns and a lot of surrendering that is demanded for the disciples. But probably also as viewers, it's a very complicated roller coaster of a journey because we start at the entrance into Jerusalem and the big grand, opening, and then from there it gets very lots of waves come at us in so many different directions.
Yeah. Describe what it was like on set filming The Last Supper with all the apostles together and Jonathan Rumi.
The Last Supper itself was a very sacred experience. I think it goes down. I always say to people behind the scenes, the crew who created a wonderful atmosphere, from the set designers to the costume to every detail of that place, and obviously the visions of the whole production team and Dallas. It makes it so easy because you enter, obviously the phenomenal importance of it, of the moment and occasion. But the production, the set is amazing, and then you come with your brothers and family who, for me, 2 years, for everybody else, 4 or 5, have been spending, time really learning about all sorts of things from each other. Here we are, sitting, knowing that the end is near, regarding the chosen, and also there is almost this sacred feeling in the middle. I always say it was such a weird thing that's almost ineffable. Um, but I'm so grateful to have been there with them.
Yeah. Were there any special moments behind the scenes or in front of the camera for you for season 5? Any special memories you'll take with you?
Well, one of the things I personally was very excited about was, I mean, I can speak about everything because it's out now, right? So amazing. Um, so one of the things is in episode 7, when we get to have the flashbacks, I was particularly excited for me because I didn't get to start out, and I always wanted an experience with my fellow rabbi, John the Baptist. Um, on screen because I think it would reveal a lot about Philip's uh, internal quarrels of trying to deal with this innocent, naive kid who goes out to seek something deeper in the middle of the unknown forest. And John the Baptist obviously feels very settled in this family. Then, because of the profound feeling of what he saw when he witnessed the baptism of Jesus, he doesn't need to be convinced. He's the only disciple who doesn't need proof or a miracle per se. He's seeking out, Jesus, and to leave his second family in John to go to Jesus itself is an interesting moment. And then from there to witness what happens in season 5, which is, oh, I feel like I've arrived, but now we have a whole new journey. Like it's the first supper and also the last supper. What is going on? The interesting, that was what I loved, is to be able to have that John moment, and just also to cover the arc of Philip, from his innocence and excitement and passion from when he comes in to a little bit more of a, oh, now I have to really deal with the darkness of the material world beyond even what John taught me, beyond that sort of, fasting and, practices. Now it's like hitting home at the most uncomfortable place, which we all get there, so.
Absolutely. So we know a little bit about Philip from reading our Bibles, but how would you, Reza, describe Philip?
It's a good question. I think all these disciples, they're quite, it's kind of like amazing art. They're like uh, icons that they're there to, for everybody to almost interpret and relate in the ways they can. So I would never imagine that I know anything beyond what anybody else's subjective interpretation would be. But I think for me, um, I was trying to co-create Philip from what I knew from what information was given from The Chosen as a fan who was following, from what I knew from the things I had discussions with Dallas about this guy as someone who is comfortable with the unknowns, a little bit of a nomad because of his background, but also has really learned to work with social structures, even though he's a little bit outside the circle, like Matthew, as he explains in season two. But also he's learned to find ways to relate with inside the circle through jokes and funny little quirks, and also to be nurturing and caring and listening, and taking every point of view in. So he is a little bit of that. He's that kind of leader of the pack per se, because he's a little bit outside of the pack. Um, and at the same time, I think the deeper journey that I was trying to really hone in on as I was covering the more darker sides coming into season four, where his ex-rabbi John the Baptist, passes away, and I had these discussions with Dallas as well. It's almost like he's maturing. He's coming to his maturity. So he no longer maybe needs the same level of uh, joking and flamboyance in the social spirits, but actually it needs to be a calmer, nurturing person to try and bring this pack, or like a shepherd, to kind of like a shepherd's apprentice, to help bring this flock of disciples in peace without eating each other through their little material issues, to the end, wherever that might be that he doesn't know. Um, and with that, also, there's a sort of father journey where he's kind of left his home family with his father, adopted John the Baptist, which is the idiosyncratic father, and then moving on to Jesus, which is obviously also extremely idiosyncratic, but also pretty stable, but then also extremely unstable. So it goes from, here to there. And I think his next journey, probably, when we go into that one day, maybe in the Book of Acts, is to learn to be his own father of the nation. That's why he goes into, you know, other parts of the world, and runs to be that nurturer for the children of this earth, I guess. So that's how I've understood it. And obviously, always things dynamically changed, but that's where I'm at now. And yeah.
Yeah, I love that the apostle that kind of brings everybody together. So I heard you were a big fan of The Chosen before you were cast in The Chosen. Do you ever wake up and just go, wow, I'm Philip in The Chosen?
Absolutely. I think that's because I was also a big fan. I think I have a particularly strong feeling also with the sort of fans in the sense of the family. And so I always call them the family because I was one. So for me, there's no difference, cast, crew. And I love the way that Dallas also puts that in. And it makes me just as excited as every single fan every single day to be on set, to to see those scenes brought to life. I went to cinemas for season five probably five times for each part, in different states, because I also have to travel for different job demands, and witnessed people's responses, and I was one of them, bawling my eyes out, and every time taking new things, which is really helpful. It also helps because I really take the responsibility of coming in and taking Philip extremely seriously, because I was a big fan of the way Philip was portrayed, and I work meticulously every time, obsessively watching the Philip videos from season two onwards, over and over again. So I make sure, even in terms of the acting journey, I make sure I keep his continuity as clearly as I possibly can.
Yeah, that's awesome. Some of the themes for season five are trust and surrender and the apostles giving up everything to follow Jesus. Can you talk a little bit about that and how we can apply that to our own lives here today?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of one of the things that especially Philip is like kind of a big advocate for this. Like as soon as he's one who says, surrender everything, surrender comforts, to surrender, your comfort of this fisherman's village, and deliberately seek out John in the wilderness. And then, as gruesome as that practice is, you see something else that is profoundly resonating with your soul. Which is the baptism of Jesus. And as uncomfortable as it is to let go of comfort again, in the sense of the family that he's built away from home, so his chosen family with the Baptist, you might have to be led to go away again, and so you have to have that trust that when something is revealed, go and surrender, and same with even in the book of Acts, when at some point Philip is something is revealed and God says, do this, and he goes. It's revealed. He goes. So there's no overthinking. There's no what will happen? What am I leaving behind? What's going to happen with this? Just trust that the material is going to go under the grave. It's impermanent. You don't take this with you. So go. Surrender. Trust. When you know that it's going to be probably complicated, the numbers are not going to add up. It's not going to make sense. It's a lot of fear. It takes a lot of courage, uh, and just trust. And you'll see that if your heart is in the right place and you're led from a place that you intuitively know is correct, then all will be well on the other end, despite the scars that might ensue. So,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Dallas, the creator, is saying this is the most biblical season yet. Studies are showing that people that watch The Chosen are then reading their Bible and picking up their Bible. What does it mean to you to be a part of that life-changing project?
I think it's very beautiful. I think that, um, yeah, I think that especially in the modern day, but every era in its own way has its own struggles, and human beings often get lost in preoccupations with material and sometimes, what is it? Fundamentalism, being stuck in a particular position materially out of fear. And I always say, like, the courage to venture into the unknown, going back to the previous question, but to go into a place that you might feel like you might confront things that you don't want to be confronted with about yourself, about the world. Um, you, you know, it's hard to do. And sometimes when you hear things like, oh, the Bible or this or faith, or it's easy to sort of get a materialistic interpretation based on history. Not just the Bible, any type of thing that is potentially useful. Um, I love that art. I love that things like The Chosen can offer opportunities to see the human connection, that we're all the same underneath. We're all blood, flesh, and so it 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 gives you a way to connect to it from a heart rather than with the mind, or with that sense of you know historical allergy to the.
Yeah.
So it's exciting. I think that's amazing, especially in the modern world. Uh, Concepts like faith and sacred are particularly necessary, I would say.
Yeah, and we're all trying to get to the same place. So I heard that you read the whole Bible to prepare for this role. Is that right?
Mhm. I did, I did. I mean, yeah, I did because, but it's a different thing to say because I was reading it more as two reasons. One of them is you read for as I engage for any preparation for any acting job I do it because I want to understand what are the overall themes. What are we trying to say? Some of the best acting teachers say, find the transcendent. What are we trying to say so that that hits you? so that if it doesn't hit you, how can you make it hit the audience? So that was important. And the other part was from a very Phillip specific journey. And so I had to really, march in there and see, what is there about John, John the Baptist? What is there about Jesus? What is there about me? What is there about all the other disciples? How do I relate to each of them? So I'm very much about trying to take everything from first the chosen script and also then from any extra material that I can to to draw from for inspiration, I guess.
Yeah. So Reza, you have quite a life. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. You were born in Geneva, Switzerland.
That's
You
right.
grew up in Iran. You lived in London and Austria. You went to medical school for 2 years,
Yeah, yeah.
and you're a big advocate for education and mental health. How do all these, life experiences help you as an actor?
I think in a nutshell.
You're a busy guy. You've
Well,
been
no,
around.
thank you for, it's a good question because I think it all leads into the process. I mean, I kind of weirdly, kind of like Philip, I think I was drawn to acting and art in a similar way that he was pursuing Jesus, in a sense that you're searching for something transcendent and almost ineffable, and something that is deeply not secure, and but it's a very authentic voice. And I was, in a process where I was preparing more formulaically for my life. I think having gone through so many different countries, I went to 10 schools from a young age. You hear people tell you about their quarrels, and what's the word? Uh, yeah, the traumas, difficulties. It's universal. I always say blood is always red, and we always bleed, and the same color.
Yeah.
That's something I gathered, and I wanted to do something about it. That's why I pursued psychology and then medical school to be able to become a psychiatrist, psychotherapy center for young people, which I still have that dream. Um, but it was interesting because formulaically, as I was going to med school and kind of like what we see this year in the Nathaniel journey, where he's out there studying, to bring it back to the chosen, you realize that there's a different path for you. So suddenly you're like, oh, um, I got ill, like, and then there was a different voice that through a lot of introspection realized, oh, like art is the way and acting is the way. And it took a few steps that, I don't want to bore you and the audience with, and one day we can have a conversation about, but it was interesting because I think what's oddly paradoxical is sometimes things, you think this way is the way, but actually through this way, in the current time, in the right moment, material and divine connecting makes more sense. And I think in the current times, when it's the time of, people following celebrities and podcasts and so on, all the advocacy that I want to do in relation to mental health probably will have more impact than if I were to, without any disregard, obviously, of the psychiatrist, the psychologist. But unfortunately, in the current times where everything's so fast and we have media and people are, watching these 5-minute videos, perhaps that's the point, is that there might be a broader reach and a new voice to try and, speak of the same things that I'm sure every person who has good intentions in relation to these topics is trying to make.
Yeah, and God's timing is perfect.
Mhm.
Reza, in closing, when you're in these faith-based projects, is as you're encouraging other people's faith to grow, is your faith also growing?
I think it's impossible for it not to. I think what I love about the show and the current climate is that you know, there's potentially a resistance to the concept of faith. But I think faith reduced down is something quite quiet and gentle, and it reflects through actions and through the struggles of human day to day. And what I love about even shows currently, they're revealing that is that it hits home in a much less presentational and much more human level. So anyone from any background or wherever they're at in their journey can connect with that. Um, and ultimately, when life is known and unknown, and when we're in the unknown, and every one of us face that, what is more helpful to anybody than faith? I don't know. Um, if you've got to keep the faith, you got to look up, as Joseph says.
Thanks for joining us. And for more content, go to movieguide.org and like and subscribe right now.